What is going on, everyone? My name is Northy and welcome back to the Team Coach preview for the new round. Obviously, we've got round 7 coming up tonight and I'm really excited, as I am every single week, to show you guys what we have in store for ourselves this coming week. So, some more exciting stuff here and there. I'm keen to give you a look at how it all went. Of course, for everyone, there's one particular mode that we all didn't do too great at because last week was very tough to predict, but I am really keen to show exactly how we did. So, if you guys find yourself enjoying this video at any point, be sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Everything, again, is always very much appreciated. And without further ado, no need to keep waffling. Let's jump into our round 7 preview. So, first things first, a lot of really good things to look at on the front page. For example, we had Lachie Whitfield in our top 4 and Nick Dacos in our top 18. So, really good signs to start ourselves off here. It's just Max Gawn unlocked the old version of him, or last year's version, finally. And Cuzzy Pickett finally had himself a great game, managed to top the forwards, which is the first time I feel like I've seen him do that in a really long time. So, good on him, and you can see there is a prize card to claim. It is a very good week for prize cards. Happy days indeed. But let's have a look. First off, we are going to check out Top Team, because Top Team is one that I just can't seem to get a hold of at the moment. So, Whitfield is one, you saw at the start, had a crazy good week, had like 141 points, I'm pretty sure, was his end result. So really good week for him. But if we look elsewhere, the ruck position didn't do as well as I would have hoped. You can see last week, if we sort by last round, Max Gawn was the best, and Sherry finally showed up as soon as I take him out. Lloyd Meek played well too, Bailey Williams, Riley O'Brien, Brody Grundy, Tim English, Draper, Witts, and there is Cameron. That is very interesting to see after seeing him average this much all season. This is a bit of a concerning problem we've got at the moment. We just can't pick the right ruckman each week. We've got to do better at making sure we pick the right one. So obviously he was up against McInerney, and McInerney isn't one that, you know, tops lists, but he is also a very formidable ruckman in his own sense. So definitely a very bad one there this week. At least it's not a Rowan Marshall pick, but Tom De Koning is also another one that didn't do too well. But Gawn, Sherry, Meek, I'd imagine some would have picked. English, some could have picked too, so there's definitely a lot of ruckmen that could have outdone us there. We then clear our midfielder. You can see Sam Walsh, he's not very far up there. Dacos, who we've had before, he took it out against a Brisbane side that I'm surprised he managed to look so dominant in, but you go down and down, and there is Sam Walsh. He didn't have a fantastic game. Nothing too crazy last week. He didn't really need to. I think it was George Hewitt who ended up doing the best for the Carlton midfielders, although I don't even think Hewitt is in the midfield. So that's one you've got to kind of look out for. I think he's in the back line. So maybe if you've got the Carlton best and fairest and you don't have Lachie Whitfield, maybe chuck in George Hewitt, because I think he's in the back line for Carlton. But nonetheless, Nick Dacos doing his thing. It feels like it's been a while since he's been able to. But here we are. Dacos finally showing out the way we kind of expect him to. But yeah, not a bad week for him. I am going to pick him because I feel like against Essendon, he can definitely do it again. Unless they manage to get a tagger. They very much could tag Nick Dacos. We'll find out. But we look at the forward line and we ended up getting the second best. So not even that bad of a pick for our forwards last week in the top 4. It's just Cozzy had himself an outlandish first good game, I guess. Melbourne finally getting a win on the board. But yeah, Isaac Rankin, probably the most common pick for most people at the moment, and he managed to get himself second. So while it's good that we had him there, it's probably nothing that pushed us ahead of the top 10. So we look at the rucks. I'm going to put back in Sherry. Why not? I feel like Sherry, now is the time for you to do really well. We're up against Port next, so sweet is his matchup. I feel like Sherry definitely could make the most of that matchup. If we check the ladder last week, 36 for the season, 56 for the round. It's actually not that bad overall. 403. That's okay. It's over 100 per player. You think of Darcy Cameron if he had done a little better, and Sam Walsh. So 2 spots there that definitely need improvement. Although very glad we had Rankin in there. Yeah, need to pick the right ones, especially when it comes to your midfielders and ruckmen, because they can have the highest scores out of everyone. So we need to make sure we get it on the money this week. If we had picked someone like Nick Dacos, one of our usuals, I reckon we could have had a prize card here this week. But unfortunately not. It's the way it goes. We just got to try and make the changes, and I feel like that's what we're going to go with for this week. Whitfield manages to get his involvement every single week, and Sherry just needs to play well when I pick him, man. He just needs to. It's going to be a toughie. We move to 18 star. Now, this one is going to be a tough one to look at. So, the unlucky one is Sam Darcy, of course. He went down really early, so kind of have to clear him. Riley Thilthorpe is one that I think I'm going to still keep, but all around that Adelaide game was really strange. Brian Mize is going to be out as well with an injury. He is concussed, so that is unfortunate in the sake of the game mode, but of course in the sake of him in general. Hope he recovers quickly and soon. But if we have a look in the midfield, yeah, so we want to clear our ruckman. We want to clear that for Sherry. Dunkley actually did okay. Dunkley didn't do terrible. But you can see there were a lot of players who did better. You see Dunkley sitting in there. I'm trying to think who could potentially be better, and the one that comes to mind is Newcomb. Newcomb is definitely one that consistently gets up there. Merritt, I'm cool with keeping in there. We had Dacos in, which is fantastic. Dawson, I'm also cool with keeping in there. I think I'm going to take out Walsh, though. I need to kind of double check the matchups, because I feel like the matchups will decide who we put in next. Probably going to be Butters, because they come up against North. I'm thinking West Coast as well. Yeah, so Hawthorn are up against West Coast, so the Newcomb pick is very, very good. Yeah, definitely going to put Butters in there, I reckon. He's probably, oh, it could be Rosie. It's honestly going to be a mix between one or the other. I'm going to go Butters. I feel like Butters is probably the safest pick out of them all. I know you don't want to be too safe in this game mode, but 100 plus would be fantastic, and I think Butters is the most likely to hit it. Rosie can have an occasional poor one. Horn Francis occasionally can have a poor one. I've seen it happen. Butters so far seems to be consistent 100 plus. Ollie Wines, I'd love to see Ollie Wines get back to his old Brownlow form, but I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. I think St Kilda, I'm keen on keeping this backline the way it is. If I look at the other players, Vlosten was a bit of an outlier. Rivers, if he can keep getting midfield minutes, maybe he's a pickup. Dale did well. Wilkie did well. But if I were to clear out this team, this backline that I've got, then I feel like these guys would all find themselves high up there. I know Martin played well. I think the Saints boys did have an off one, but they can play really well. Zorko also had a bit of an off one. Do I maybe change up Zorko? No, I don't want to change up Zorko though. That's my problem. I feel like my only changes at the moment now are in the forward line. What changes do I want to make? Willie Rioli, yeah, I could probably put him in there as he's up against North Melbourne. And then maybe a Hawthorn. Marbior, I don't know about Marbior. Maybe Watson or Ginnivan. Dylan Moore, there we go. Dylan Moore, I feel like, is one that really could break out in this game. That's a really good pick, I think. Nonetheless, we're going to save that, and we are going to check the ladder for last week. You can see round 6 fantasy points for the season. We're 36. Last week, we were 26. 6 off. How annoying is that? If we had Darcy, if Darcy had managed to have himself a normal game, maybe we could have gone up. I don't know. A lot of really, really low scores. Have a look at this. No one over 1,600, meaning a lot of people had Darcy, a lot of people had Myers. That is a very, very, very interesting final score. Really interesting final score for the week. I feel like a lot of this could be higher without the injuries. So big, big week coming up next week. I feel like no one will be getting a prize card with this low of a score next week. We'll have to find out. We'll have to find out for sure. I hope it goes well. Charlie the Sainter, I've noticed him in the comments. He's smashing it this season. He's having a fantastic year so far. I think he's going to be in the star powers most likely. But yeah, fantastic start for him. And I think this team could do really well. I'm keen on it. Let's see how it turns out. Now, let's go have a look at star powers. Hopefully star powers doesn't take forever to load in like it did the last week. Unfortunately, it looks like that's the case. Here we are. Beautiful. So, looking at last week. So, this is what we had for silvers. Not a bad team. So obviously Dacos had a fantastic week. Great to have him in there. Sinclair was a poor one. So if we have a look, Sinclair last round, 3rd out of our possible options. So we could have found someone a little better. We just talked about how good Sherry ended up playing this time around. Rankin also did really well. If we clear that and go by last round, he topped it, so couldn't get better out of the players I had available. But Will Ashcroft, I think, was one that didn't do too well. Yeah, you can see there, Ashcroft was beaten out by Saligo, Watson, and Durham. Watson probably being the most surprising. But Will Ashcroft, I know, can do better. I'm honestly keen to just keep it this way. If I look here, there's definitely some players we could change it up with. You know what? I may actually put in Rosie. I feel like Rosie, this is your time to go. With you coming up against North Melbourne, this is probably your time. Although that logic also applied. Cripps nor Walsh had a fantastic game last week, but Hewitt did. One of the midfielders absolutely broke out. I have a feeling it could be Rosie or Butters. Butters the safe option. Rosie, the I guess, breakout option. I hope it happens. I really do. But if we look at this one, Star Powers, was this the one we ended up getting our prize card in? We're 18th for the season. You can see Charlie the Saints are having a great one. We were 44th, so not quite. A lot of different people here. But 44th is not a bad finish. Not a bad finish at all. 464, you basically have to be in the 500s. I think I've mentioned it before. If you want to get a prize card in the Silver Star Powers, you have to be in the 500s. And unfortunately, it did not happen. I think Ashcroft didn't help us and Sinclair didn't help us. So, unfortunate that, but we can obviously do better. Glad that we had Dacos for sure. Very glad that we had Dacos. Sort by last round, he was number 1. And when you can do that for your elite, that's fantastic. That's exactly what you want to see. But yeah, Rosie could do well. Rankin getting midfield minutes, so keep him in. Will Ashcroft doing well still. Just the poor game against Collingwood, so that's a completely understandable result. But we go to Ultra. This is what we had for Ultra. Again, Sherry, we mentioned, he finally broke out and had his great game. We got Heaney in there, who actually didn't do too bad. Of course, just not the best. Newcomb, I feel like there's no changes that I really need to make here again this week because I need an elite star power in there. Newcomb having fantastic games. Show last round. He topped it last round, so fantastic there. Clear there. Sherry was my best one out of the ones I've got. I mean, there's just a lot to really like at the moment with my with my ultra star powers. And what did that give us? That gave us rank 18 for the season, but gave us rank 18 for the round. 781 points all up. That puts us in the top 20. We get a prize card with Ultra. Obviously, last week was with Silver. So we've won both game modes now. And I think Ultra still is one of the easier ones to get a prize card in this year. I'm just glad that I've managed to finally do it. It's finally worked out in my favor. Thank God. We are here. Rank 18, baby. Very, very good. I'm in rank 18 for season and the round, so doesn't get much better than that. Nonetheless, very happy indeed. Hopefully, we can keep this up. This is a fantastic result. 2 weeks in a row with prize cards. We're on a roll. We're doing really, really well. Although, that being said, are there any changes I want to make? No. Not really. As I said, I don't think there's any changes. We've talked about Hawthorn up against West Coast. Newcomb could do well. We've got Sherry in our top team again, and I'm hoping that that works well for our star powers. Heaney, look, he hasn't hit his best as he was doing last year, but he's still a very, very worthy star powers pick. And then I don't really need to change these two. Maybe I change it for Jace Burgoyne. I'm really keen on changing it to Jace, but I don't know whether it works out 100%. Maybe I do. It depends who Brisbane's playing. So Brisbane's up against St Kilda. Maybe we keep it the way it is. I'm going to keep it the way it is. I think Will can bounce back. We've seen it happen before. I've kept the same team into the next week, and it's actually worked out in our favor. So I'm hopeful that that happens again. Did I make any change? Yeah, I made the one change this week in my star powers. Not much at all, but when it's doing well and when it's winning, there's not really much I need to do or like I'm worried about. I'm actually quite happy with how it's going. So appreciate the fact that these players are playing well for me now. I just hope I can keep it going for the rest of the season. All right, next up, we're going to go to Fantasy Forecast. Now, we're going to have a look at last week. This one is definitely by far the hardest one for me at the moment. I want to try and get a team set. It would be fantastic to get, but we look at our past results. Last week, Dawson, -9 gave us the overall rank of 38. So a lot of people seem to have been putting in Dawson. But we look at Darcy Cameron, and that gave us 33. Our total margin was 45. So not as many people for Cameron. We need to get high up there. We need to be like almost spot on in order to get ourselves a good ranking here. So the total margin needs to get better. It just needs to. How do I do that? Well, it is pretty much just by putting in as many as I possibly can. So you can see we've got Whitfield. Whitfield's going to be a tough one. He can do many different scores in many different weeks. I think it's pretty safe to say 120. But what does 120 look like? He had 39 possessions last week. That is insane. That is absolutely ridiculous. Lots of marks are needed from him as well. He's averaging a lot this season. Oh, it's going to be a tough one to predict. It really is. I am going to say, disposals-wise, we're going to go 31 in the marks. He's not going to kick any goals. I don't think he's kicked one all year. I don't expect him to. He probably could, but I don't think it's going to happen. He only had a few tackles, so I'm going to stick with that and say he's going to get 2 tackles in this one. It's the marks where he gets his points. It's where all his points come from. I'm going to say 10. So 31 disposals, 10 marks, 2 tackles, and no goals is probably my best shot for this Lockie Whitfield fantasy forecast. I'm putting in Jordan Dawson again. My big pick for this one, my risk, is he's going to kick a goal. I think I did it last week, so I'm going to do it again. Hopefully it works out. I don't know. I can't remember even who Adelaide is playing against, if I'm being honest. Either way, it is pretty much just a guessing game for the most part. We've got Jai Newcomb coming up as well, and obviously considering we've got him in our fantasy teams, I kind of want to get his predictions, like, really good. I hope that he has a really good game, so I'm going 115 against West Coast is possible, but again, there's a lot of players on that team that can take points away from him. I just hope it works out. I really do. So that could be a good one. And then Darcy Cameron. This one is probably one of the more important ones because Collingwood sets are always expensive. So if I want to try and get a Collingwood set without having to pay, I need to try and make sure I use as many Collingwood players as I possibly can. So Darcy Cameron keeps being the one that I get, and I may as well just use him again. I'm not going to overdo the fantasy forecast. Again, if I remember to, I'll try and do some more when I'm off camera. But yeah, you can see I put in the 2 last week. They both came up. We put in, I think, 4 already. So like we've got a few chances next week. We'll see how it goes. We'll put in a few more and hopefully I'll come back and win it next week. We'll see how it turns out. But nonetheless, just fingers crossed for the most part. It is fingers crossed. So let's go ahead and have a look at our final one, which of course is the tips. Now, last week, we all know it was a bit of a rough one. It was not an easy tipping week for everyone, but I ended up getting 4 last week. And last week, someone somehow got 9. I don't know how the hell they've done that. But I guess, congrats. That's a ridiculous week to get, which means you picked Richmond over Gold Coast. Just an unreal week if you got 9. I don't know how you would have done so. This one next week, though, we've got Melbourne versus Richmond. I'm going Richmond with this one. I have a feeling Richmond, with the way they've been playing, has been more inspired. I reckon they could take it. Collingwood versus Essendon. I feel like it's a bit of a safe option, but Essendon, it's a big moment. They could definitely take it. Freo versus Adelaide. I'm going Adelaide. We've got Saints versus Brisbane. I am going Brisbane. Port versus North. I wish I had the confidence to tip North ever again. GWS versus the Dogs. Oh, it's going to be a tough matchup. I think Hogan is confirmed in, so I'm going to go GWS. Suns versus Swans. I think it's going Suns' way. It's at their home ground. Carlton versus Geelong. Carlton, they've got 2 wins in a row. Big wins, but I'm going to go Geelong. Hawthorn versus West Coast. West Coast do show fight, but I think Hawthorn are going to take this one. So who knows? Maybe it's another crazy week in the AFL, but this is what my tips are looking like, and hopefully it turns out well for me. And then finally, of course, we've still got a Star Power prize card to go and collect. So you'd say last week we collected George Wardlaw. Who are we going to pick this week? I think it's still the same type of deal where if Collingwood's available, you pick Collingwood. And so that's what I'm going to do again. Hopefully it goes well. Hopefully it doesn't hurt me. Yeah, Bobby Hill Star Powers prize card. I'm not planning to collect too many prize cards this year, but hopefully it turns out all right. I mean, I hope that I can get a few this year. That's all I can really hope for. But yeah, there's the Bobby Hill Star Powers prize card. Fantastic. Well, thank you all once again for tuning into this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Let me know your tips as well in the comments below. Let me know how many prize cards you've won as well. I know some people, as I mentioned, Charlie the Sainter is one that I see in the comment section every now and then. He's been having a fantastic year, so I'd love to know how many prize cards everyone has managed to get, and if you haven't yet, what your plan is this week. So, nonetheless, I appreciate you all tuning in either way, and I hope to see you all again next week for another preview. Cheers, guys. I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.